All right. So we do have quorum, and Dale, you'll be stepping in as chair
Okay,
for
thank
this
you.
meeting.
So welcome everyone to the April 21st meeting of the Programs and Services Subcommittee meeting. Nicole, would you mind just calling on people to introduce themselves?
Sure, I'll start with the board members. Dale, if you want to, well, I guess that was somewhat of an introduction. If you have more to add
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
introduction.
I'm a member of CAB.
And then Lila.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lila Blanchard, and I am on the Programs and Services Subcommittee, and I'm also on the Policy and Budget Subcommittee, and I'm on the Community Advisory Board. And am I taking notes today? I lost track if I need to submit that for this subcommittee today.
I think that Dale is the recorder, but being that he's having to chair the meeting right now, I'll let you guys decide how you want to handle that.
Yeah, that would be really, I'd appreciate that, Lila. I'll be glad to submit the report, but maybe you can offline, you can then send some information to me.
Sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Did you want to, for us to introduce staff and community members?
Yes,
Yeah. I'll start with Monique.
Hi, I'm Monique Tate with the Office of Reentry and Justice. Happy to be here with you all.
And Denise.
Morning, everyone. I'm Denise Zabkevich. I'm with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Christina.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Christina Jackson. I'm a planner evaluator with the ORJ.
And I see a CAB member, Crawford, if you would like to introduce.
I'm Crawford Carpenter. I'm a CAB member.
Jill.
Hi there, Jill Ray, Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
I'm not familiar with Alyssa and Jennifer if you work for the county, but you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Hi, Elisa Robinson, Office of Supervisor Diane Burgess.
And hello, I'm Jennifer McIntyre. I'm with Indivior. So my company is a manufacturer of Sublocade, one of the options for opioid use disorder. I was hoping to join you if appropriate and just learn more about your approach in the community to the treatment of opioid use disorder. Is this is open to the public, correct?
Yes.
yes,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
And then I'm Nicole Popchek, also with the Office of Reentry and Justice. And I saw one other person join us. Terry, did you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm Terry Dunn, and I'm a pending member of CAB, and glad to be here. Sorry I'm late.
Welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is a public comment. Is there any comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed on. The approval of the minutes from the March 17 CAB Programs and Services Subcommittee meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes. I'll make the motion. Then do I have a second?
I can second it. I'm still trying to figure out who the voting members are here, but I guess when Nicole calls us, that'll
Yes.
answer the question.
It's you and Dale right now, Lila. Dr. Cole is not with us at the moment, so the three of you was what makes this subcommittee as of right now. So I will, unless there's public comment, I can go ahead and do roll call vote.
Any public comment concerning the minutes from March 17? Okay. Whoop. Did someone have a comment?
No, I think it was just an echo.
Oh,
Monique, I
okay.
muted your phone, so I think it's echoing. here.
Okay.
Okay, Dale,
Yes.
Lila.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Boy, we're Lila, we're really powerful today, aren't we? By golly. Maybe we can vote a raise for ourselves. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda. Review updated questions for 2022 AB 109 survey. And here is the, I
can
think,
just quickly walk you through this. So this page 8 and I think page 8 and 9 is what the original survey
Right.
was ending, what was it, 2020. And then page 10 and 11 is what Denise's teams, the edits that Denise and
Right.
Christina had made.
right, right.
I don't know, Christina or Denise, if you wanted to kind of walk us through some of the changes based on
Well,
feedback.
I
from the
would
board.
suggest that we have Lila walk us through because we only made changes based upon what Lila's recommendations were. So Lila, would you like to speak to this as a member of the committee? I'm happy to answer questions. You're muted.
Yeah, so how I would best be able to do this is if we can focus on the second version. Is that what's right in front of me right now?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes. Yeah, that's the updated one, Lila.
Okay. Yeah, and are changes the areas of that are highlighted on this, Denise, or changes are kind of interwoven throughout?
My belief is that the changes are what's highlighted.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So, Nicole, if you can just be my driver and I'll look on the same Zoom screen that we're sharing. If you could go up. So this is a draft, and this is the introductory paragraph, which government agencies and nonprofits that are funded through AB 109 funding will be reading this paragraph as an introduction to the survey. And we are asking that all of these entities take the time to fill it out. We have tried to streamline and not ask the same question or for folks to rank their responses, but basically just to put the number one response, and hopefully we've shortened it to some degree. So that is the introductory paragraph there. And the purpose or goal of this survey is to, as stated in that paragraph, to help inform our recommendations to the Community Corrections Partnership. And so we really want to understand the needs and the obstacles, as well as, strengths and, different things that the entities that are part of our system are experiencing. So the first part of the survey is pretty standard, and it's just to kind of place folks. So agency's name, and I think this is also, helpful in tracking that, whether the agency has completed it or not. And then select type of agency, community-based organization or government or department agency. And then, what regions does your agency serve? It's not essential, but it gives us a sense if we're getting responses that are particularly relevant to one part of the county or another. And then we get into our, basically our questions that are, they're narrative questions. We'll get a variety of responses. It might be a very short answer. It might be, up to a small paragraph. And so the first question is, what is the most critical area of need for individuals returning to their communities from custody? The second question that we're asking folks to provide, responses and ideas around is, what is the greatest challenge your program or programs or region of the county is facing? I think that there was some dialogue with Denise around that. Like, did we, yeah.
Yeah, this is a tricky question, but I think it is going to be okay in this survey. Typically, we don't like to have ors in a survey question, because what it means is the answer, you don't really know what it applies to. So, one other option is to split this into two separate questions to ask, what is the greatest challenge that your program is facing? And then ask another question that says, what is the greatest challenge your region of the county is facing?
Mhm.
So I think it might be okay, but if as members of CAB, you feel like you want to distinguish between those two things, we can certainly break it out. But my sense is that it's going to be okay for this small group of people.
Great, and we can review the rest of the questions and circle back to that too. Dale, did you wanted to?
Yeah, no, I agree, Denise. And also, I want to point out the question number 4 is really important to be referring to individuals returning to their communities. Obviously, our focus has to be on reentry. And I like the fact that focus is right at the beginning with this.
Thank you, Dale. That was the suggestion that came from last meeting, was to try to prioritize the questions and have the ones that we wanted to hear back most about first. The only thing I would add about question number 5 is that I think that this question is getting at, what are gaps that you see? What are ideas? What's the link between a challenge that you're facing or, something that you see in your regions? So if we can scroll down to the next questions. I hope there's not too many more. Okay, so number 6 is, what are the most important areas of growth for your programs? That feels a teeny tiny bit repetitive to me, but let's keep rolling here. Number 7, please describe any barriers that your agency experiences when seeking to reach program goals and objectives. I'm also feeling that a lot of these questions are kind of negative, and it can be nice sometimes to have a little bit of, good stuff in there too. Okay, so then question number 8 is, please describe how the CAB can better support your agency or programs in order to reach your stated goals or objectives. I really like that question. Maybe we can put it up top after the second question, or we end strong. And then number 9, if we want anything else, what else would you like CAB's Program and Services Committee to know? And then there's a thank you at the end. So we started with our narrative questions at 4. So we have 4 through 9. Is that 5 questions or 6? I'm sorry. It feels like 6, but it should be 5.
6
Okay.
open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And number 9 is so important because there may be something that we haven't anticipated. And so
Exactly.
that gives the responses, the responders, the opportunity to maybe help us out in that regard.
Great. Dale, would you like question number 9 to be after number 4 then?
You mean I thought you said maybe number 8, question 8, to be up up higher?
Yeah, either one of those. I feel
No,
like
excuse me, but I like the fact that number 9 ends the survey because they would have gone through everything. Then they get to that point, and having answered all the others, there may be something that occurs to them at that point.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes, that's typically how these kinds of programmatic surveys go, is to ask, what your needs are, what's working, what's not working. Have your focus be on your programs. And then to say, as an agency, how, in light of all of that, how can we best support your
Yes.
work? And so
Yes.
this is a very common flow, is what I would
Yeah.
say. Christina, I see your hand is up, and
Christina,
I want to,
yeah.
since you've worked on this, I want to make sure that you have a chance to speak to this.
Sure, thanks, everybody. I just want to call out one other difference that's not immediately obvious in this version. If we scroll up to the first page, and maybe actually if we go to the previous version, it'll be easier to see. We did remove a question per the recommendation from our last conversation, which was question 2. What is your role within the agency? This question has been removed in the updated version. I just want to call that out as well.
Right.
Thank you, Christina. And, in the previous version, we had asked like, what's your first, second, and third challenge? And when we got these responses, it was like, I don't need at least 13 pages. And we started to see themes in the answers. And if folks are picking their most important or one thing, then it allows us to have a little bit more focus. So thank you, Christina, for that and for taking out, some of the repetitive questions. Dale, it looks like you're feeling good about the flow of this. Can we take a look at number 6 again?
I see Terry's hands up as well. Terry, if you'd like to make a comment.
Oh, yeah, Terry.
Hi. So we don't need to know the name of the person filling it out. We don't need to have any follow-up.
No.
Okay.
Typically not.
Very good.
In these kinds of things, we allow individuals to have their anonymity. It
Yeah.
will speak though to who do we send this to, Terry?
Yeah.
And that will be another question that the committee will need to decide on, because we do like to ensure the confidentiality of responses, but we also can control who it goes to.
Okay. And will this go out in electronic form for people to just fill fields?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, we're gonna, we will set it up as a 365 form, and then we will send it out to a recipient list.
Okay.
And then Denise, when you send it
When
out.
we're ready, I have that to share, because if we're going to make some changes, I'd rather them do them right here in real time so that we can leave this meeting for it ready to be distributed, just so we don't have to wait another month.
Yes. Yes, superb.
Thank you.
Denise, I have a question.
Yes.
When you have sent this out in the past, do you request that the person acknowledge receipt of it right away so that way you know that it's in
No.
someone's hands?
No, because that's also identifiers as well.
Ah,
And so the best we're going to do with an identifier is to determine the agency that responded.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And once Nicole has the live thing up, I just want to talk about a couple of questions
Okay,
when we
please.
get to editing.
Lila, you wanted to go to question 6.
Yeah, Terry, we can go with yours first. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like the idea of adding a success question, about what's going best before you start going into the weeds, and so I would want to put that before the problem questions, however we say that. And I do agree with the idea of splitting out the parts of question 5, putting the needs of the county in as 5 perhaps, and then whatever the parts of your program thing that might just blend into 6. Because to me, areas of growth and greatest challenges, there's an overlap, or we could say both.
Yeah, I think we might want to say both.
Yeah. So how about if we blend both in there about your program and leave question 5 about your region, and then actually, I guess we would. Well, to me, I feel like it's okay to talk about the needs of the county as 5, and then success as 6, and areas of growth and challenges would become 7, just as a possible flow.
Yeah, I don't
Thanks.
have any problem with those suggestions, Terry.
So this
I'm
makes for a
understanding
longer
you're wanting-
survey.
Go ahead, sorry. I want to capture these changes in real time here.
So Denise, you were saying that makes for a longer survey. Yeah, I kind of like it stopping at 9. So we were adding one question, it sounds like.
No, we're actually splitting one question and adding one.
Well, I think we're the split of 5 actually folds into what is already number 6.
Okay, could you please speak directly to what the question would look like so Nicole could catch this live? Because
Yeah.
I don't have access to it. Nicole's managing this right now.
Okay. So what
Actually, Nicole, it might be better if we just do it in that document if we can. Or is it better to do it that?
I'm gonna pull up
Oh,
the
I
Word
see, it's
doc.
PDF. I got it. Okay,
Pull up the-
whatever makes the most sense for you.
Terry, I am tracking with you. I just feel like maybe we want to ask the question about challenge to your program or growth area first and then region second. But I'm flexible. We can do it the way that you suggested. And I'm just wondering if there are any questions that can be eliminated to ask that, positive question or language shifted so we keep the same number of questions.
I don't know that it's that important that the region question, region part of it be there. We really want them to focus on their organization, both plus and minus. And when we get these, when we compile these, we may get a sense of region.
And I think also that when they ask, when the question is answered about what they need from us, that may also identify needs of the region.
Now, this question came forward from Lila, the report that you had completed on the previous survey, where you wanted to discuss what are the gaps in services for a particular region, because we know that there are service gaps by region that are not necessarily program related, but are about needs in the community for individuals returning to the community where those services are not available, or there's not sufficient housing in one particular area. So that's what that came for.
Oh, that makes
Jill,
that makes
I
sense.
see. Yeah, I'm sorry. Jill has her hand raised too.
Yeah, I think what is the greatest challenge, or if you add in their challenge or gap for your program, that could answer that. Because when you get into region, what are you talking about? Because there's East County, there's Far East County, there's cities, it can be complex. And I think we have a pretty good idea in the county already where the gaps of services are. We know that there's a dearth of mental health and substance use disorder treatment. We know areas where there's a dearth of that. And so I don't know what you're trying to grab that you don't already know with that question. And I think you're focused on a program. And so what, wherever that program is located and where they serve, they may see like in this city, there isn't much, but maybe 3 cities over, but there's no transportation to get there. I mean, so it's, I'm not sure how helpful region would be for this purpose.
Lila, you were on that committee. How do you feel about that?
Like somebody knows what the gaps are, but does this subcommittee know that information? And we want to be able to take it and work with it. And so I do want to keep it short, and I don't want to do too compact or ask too many questions in one question. But maybe it's just a suggestion with the last one. Maybe we can we scroll down to the last question? What else would you like the CABS programs and services to know about your program or region? Because then we're giving them some kind of a focus on that, and they can take it or leave it. They can leave it blank. I'm kind of grasping at straws here and just trying to get this, finalized so we can send it out.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then they would have if they feel there's a gap, this is where they can add that. Right? If there's unmet needs in the region, they could identify that in here if they wanted to.
But it can also be identified in the challenges section. And my only concern about question 9 is my same concern about question 5, is that it's what we call a double-barreled question. And it is not a good survey question. And it's not because you don't know what the answer response or is related to. Is this what else you want to know about your program or about the region? We don't know, because the question refers to both. So we might want to remove that altogether, just in general.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yes.
don't. Go ahead, Dale.
You mean and end it
Jill.
after the word no?
Yes, the way it originally was.
Ah,
Yeah.
Jill, I see your hand up.
So, so if I understand this survey, you're collecting information so that you can make suggestions for programs for budgeting purposes going forward, correct? Is that
Yes.
the purpose of this survey?
And
Yes.
to also have potentially identify areas that need more research. I don't know if we would have time this year, but yes, it's
Sure.
funding and around ideas.
Right. And so the whole idea of ideas would be that you would add it into your budget for future consideration for suggestions and filling a gap with a certain service, whether it be housing or something along those lines. So I think what I hear Denise saying is you don't want a vague question, and they may not know what programs and services does. So I'm wondering if you could word it something along the lines of what programs or services would you suggest we consider to fill gaps in your area, or something along those lines? Because somebody who's working with housing is going to have a different gap than somebody who's working with substance use disorder treatment. And so you just kind of leave it open, but ask specifically what you're looking for from them. Because if you just say something, what do you want us to know? They could say, well, the sun is shining today. Versus, you're asking them specifically what it is that they would suggest you consider for future programs and services.
Yeah, and because this survey is coming from us, they would assume that it is we who are looking at this.
Can you repeat that one more time, Jill?
I knew you were going to ask me that. What I have a hard time reading and thinking at the same time. What programs and services would you suggest we consider for future development and or funding or something along those lines? I don't know.
Iteration, something, yeah. Future development. Or yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. And then are we, okay, so we're taking out program or region. Okay.
No, I would suggest what programs and services would you consider for future development or funding in your area? Because then you get to that region / section of their, their program.
Right. That's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for coming to work today, Jill.
I started my morning in Moraga at 7 a.m. So I'm just super with y'all.
I feel like maybe number 6 just becomes the question that we ask about successes. Like, do we really need to ask about areas of growth? I mean, what are we even asking there? If I saw that question, what are we trying to do that we can't do? But then that sounds like a challenge. Yeah.
I almost feel like you're asking, like, where have they seen program expansion or program need expand? What part of their program has the greatest need? And I don't know if that's what that question was getting at.
Yeah, is it asking, are you trying to find out what areas they're expanding into, what they've identified as a new thing where they want to provide greater service, what's emerging?
Maybe that's what we want to say. What's an emerging area of service for your program? But that still means we have one extra question. But that's positive too. So maybe we leave it at that, and we don't need to ask what's your success, because this is getting at that. I would be comfortable with that.
Lila, had you said what is an emerging? You got the word service in there.
What is an emerging area of service for your program? And perhaps there's more positive language we could put in some of the other questions, or we can just let them stand as is.
You want to say, what is an emerging area of service need for your program?
Oh, yes.
I'm kind of thinking that this is more something new that's happening or developing. It could be need, or it could be something that you're meeting, like it's a vision of where growth and expansion is happening, or some information on where growth and expansion is happening.
Yeah, because they're on the front line of it, right?
Okay, so this is a question about where the service provider is going, not what the needs are and emerging service needs in the community.
But I think we've already asked that question in like 2 or 3 different ways, right? About the needs in the community. So
challenge.
And then the first question is, what is
Nicole, could you scroll up to number 4 again? What is the most critical area of need? Okay, got it. All right.
So I think for 5, we decided to take out the region or county for 5, because we took care of that.
So that would be, what is the greatest challenge your program is facing? And then what is an emerging area of service for your program? Okay.
Or we could say emerging area. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dale.
Make that word program, eliminate the S there.
On question 5?
Yeah.
Sometimes there are multiple programs that different agencies have. I think that's what that program.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Should we just call it your agency is facing then? Instead of your program?
I would prefer not to, because
Okay.
we are moving in the direction of evidence-based programs.
Yeah.
And so an agency can run multiple programs, and
Oh.
we're interested in how a program functions and how effective it is. So
yes,
that is more useful for us.
yes,
Very,
okay.
very good.
And we have agencies that may do much more than just this one program,
Yes.
AB
Yeah,
109.
yeah.
Yes, yes, that makes sense.
Lila, can I ask in question 6, are we talking about emerging area of service delivery? Or are we talking about service categories? I just want to make sure I'm clear on what exactly this is getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the question that needs the most work. Can we say emerging area of strength for your program? And then that way it's very broad and they can name an area of service. They could mention the 2 things that you just mentioned. Maybe we just.
I'm not sure I understand what that means, though.
Mhm.
When I
Yeah.
read that question as it was initially written, I read it as, you know, what is the emerging need of the participants of your program? And it could be unmet need, but if you're looking for what their strength is, that's a whole different question.
Exactly.
I see Monique's hand up.
So I put in the chat, you could state what are the highlights of your program, you know, because really that sounds like a positive question. You're trying to get them to provide information on what they are currently doing that is a success. So you could say, what are the highlights of your program? So.
Mhm. That could work. Yeah, I mean, I think part of what I'm thinking about capturing here is the way that the program is changing to adapt to new circumstances or
Yeah.
adapting, becoming new, trying on new ideas. And so highlight is a little bit different than that, because that's just kind of, yeah, that's more like strength. Yeah.
And
Anybody else
history. Yeah.
have any ideas on how to ask this question better?
I think you should go back to the original then. What are the most important areas of growth for your program? I mean, if that's what you're looking for, I was reading it differently, but if that's what you're looking for.
Is there any way that we can clarify? Because areas of growth, yeah, that's fine. I mean, for some reason,
It's as vague, Lila, as emerging area of service. And that's where, you know, my interpretation of that question as it is not unlike Jill's, and speaks to, are you talking about service need? Are you speaking about service delivery? Are you speaking about programmatic growth? And these kinds of questions, you need to be specific. And so that, and the specificity comes from what your needs are and what your goals are with this. Because
I think growth is positive too. We all can grow, right? I see that as a positive, a way to ask somebody where are the areas of opportunity for change in the program.
And
yeah, I think that
also, if we look at what are the most important areas of growth for your program, they could look at it as what has happened or what should happen or what they would like to happen. And so if it could be one or either of those, where does that leave us with the answer?
what would the question be then?
Well, I'm not positive what how to word the question, but I'm just saying that if I were to look at this, what are the most important areas of growth for your program? I could wonder, is it the growth that has happened or growth that we want to happen?
Can we,
Well, we could say future growth.
Ah,
Yeah.
can we just say, please describe growth or planned growth that your program has experienced? I think we're coming to the ends of my wordsmithing capacities here.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna need to
Please
ask for
describe growth and planned
clarification.
growth that your programs have experienced.
Sorry, Terry and Nicole were talking. Terry and then Nicole.
Nicole, you can go first.
I'm just repeating. Does this represent what you just said?
To me, it's not
I
much
like-
different.
excuse me, I like the way this is worded because they would then identify whether it was growth that has happened or growth that they would like to see happen.
Nicole, did you have anything to add?
No, I was just looking at it from a grammatical standpoint.
Okay.
Oh.
What do you think? Does it pass the Denise test? What do you want us to do with this question, Denise?
Well, you know, Lila, this is not my survey. This is your survey. And it really speaks to what it is that you were trying to get at. And please describe growth or planned growth that your program has experienced. Again, I think it goes from my perspective, it's still, when I read it, I'm confused. Are you looking at service delivery? Are you looking at service needs? Or are you looking at what the organization is doing? And all those things are different.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and also,
so if you're looking at the organization and that's what you want is the organization perspective on where they're headed, that's a very different question.
yeah, and also the way it's worded, planned growth that you have experienced.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're talking. If we're-
Yeah.
Maybe I have.
So-
Go ahead, Terry.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to get clarification too. Are we trying to use this question to identify needs that are emerging that the group has recognized? Or are we trying to identify what they're doing or how they're shifting as an organization delivering services?
The latter, I think. I mean, now that I'm thinking through this, like we ask questions in report outs that are submitted to ORJ and about planned, how do you plan on meeting your challenges, or what are some of the next steps? But what doesn't get captured, I think, is more just a positive space for programs and organizations to talk about the growth edge of their service delivery. And I feel like
there is a space for that, and they do respond to that in their narrative reports to our office on a quarterly basis.
Can you clarify, Lila, what you mean by growth edge? And I'm sorry, Elisa, I see your hand, but I just jumped in.
Let's take Elisa's hand. Yeah, because I just kind of want to wrap this question up and maybe she'll have a suggestion for us.
My suggestion is just that when you're gathering data, sometimes it's good to have it a little bit more open-ended. rather than kind of designing it for a specific answer. And that way, whether they're talking about something that they've done or something that they hope to do, you're still able to gather that data and use it in your planning. So you don't have to have it so closed that you're getting just one kind of formulaic answer. And that might help. And then another suggestion is thinking about the growth / plan growth. You can also go with potential. Like, what is your growth potential? Like, what areas do you see yourself growing into in the future? Just another way of saying that.
I like that. What areas do you see your program growing into in the future?
Yeah, and the nice thing about that is that they may identify unmet needs. And so then they can incorporate that at that point.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing that iteration misses is it's not a time for them to necessarily talk about what is going well already. But maybe we don't need that as desperately as, or
Yeah.
it's, not so important at this point. Let's, we've got a survey. I see Jay McIntyre's hands up.
Right, just from an outsider, is the goal with that question to find what successes that you'd like to see expanded? In other words, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
What you're trying to get at? Like, what have you seen that's been successful that you'd like to expand?
I like that too. I really like that.
Well, I'm actually just trying to better understand what you're trying to achieve with the question. I think in listening to all this, I'm confused. I feel as if the ultimate goal of the question itself is shifting with each revision. It's like what you're trying to gain from that and identify from that question keeps shifting. And I'm just wondering, ultimately, is it just simply that you want to see which successes that you'd like to see expanded? I'm not even sure. I'm just asking for clarification.
Well, let me ask you this. As a provider, what would you like the question to be?
I see Terry's hand up. Thank you for that question, Dale. Was that directed to me?
Just in general, trying to better understand.
Yeah, I mean, my sense is, yes, this question has shifted a lot, but I think it's shifted a lot because it's coming into focus what we're actually trying to find out. And I really appreciate Alyssa's suggestion of what we have in now as the last part of the question. And my sense is that part captures what we need and is sufficient, and we can decide whether to go with that or to keep hacking.
Yeah, I like that suggestion, Terry. And so you're stating that where do you see yourself growing into in the future? It basically also incorporates any successes that they would like to expand on. So that question number 6 would read, what areas do you see yourself growing into in the future?
Your programs, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me. I'd love it.
Yeah. Let's wrap it.
Yeah, and these questions are going to be open to interpretation, like
Absolutely.
Alyssa stated, and we're not all going to answer any question the same way or from the same direction, but this is good enough, right?
You
And
want
then-
to say potential there? What areas or potential areas? This was part of what Alyssa suggested. Do you see your program, what areas or potential areas do you see your program growing into in the future? I mean, we can wordsmith that so it's a little cleaner, but yeah.
That's perfect. And then we would just delete everything else that came before it. And then Jill looks like has her hand up too.
I do, but not on this one. So I'll wait till
Okay,
you're done
Carrie,
with this
you
one.
have your hand up too. Is it on this one as well?
Oh, I just forgot to put my hand down.
Oh.
But
That
as long as
happens
I'm
to all of
talking,
us.
I think if we just say what potential areas, I don't think we need to say areas or potential areas.
Okay. Alyssa, does this sound like what you had in mind? Because I think it seems to me that everybody really liked your question, and it would be good to have your wordsmithing on it again to make sure that we're really covering what the intent was.
Great.
Yep, I think that means it, but it's Elisa, by the way.
Oh, Elisa, thank
No,
you.
it's okay. I know
Thank
the
you.
spelling gets everybody. So Elisa, and it does look good. What potential areas do you see your programs growing into? I don't know if you need in the future, because I mean, all of it kind of leads up to.
Growing into, yeah, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, right, exactly. That refers to, it implies the future.
That
Okay,
looks good.
so we still have then 9 questions.
Well, that's what I wanted to address. So
Yep, go for it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need the, okay, there it goes. Okay, cool. So 9 questions. What's your suggestion, Jill?
So when I look at 7 and 8, please describe any barriers that your agency experiences when seeking to reach program goals and objectives. That's an awesome question. I think it's important. But then when I look at 8, please describe how the CAB can better support your agency programs in order to reach. I'm not sure that that's a function of CAB. I think that's a function of ORJ. So I'm wondering if you want to say, please describe in number 7, say that, and then add to it what suggestions or what supports would help you reach those. Something along those lines. Combine 7 and 8 into one question and take CAB out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we really want to know if they have needs. We want to know what they are.
Yeah, you could, something along the lines of what supports could help you, reach those, something along those lines, reach those goals and objectives. And kind of combine it into, because it would be, to me, if I were filling this out, I tend to be, here's the barriers and here's what I need to attain them. So it would be all one answer.
That works for me. It doesn't feel like 2 questions that we're going to get 2 different answers for, but we would get a summary.
Yeah, so now we're down to 8 altogether.
Okay, I'm trying to stay not punchy here. Let's see if I can accomplish that. Terry, do you have your hand up again, or is that the same hand?
Oh, that darn hand. Well, as long as I'm on. Now that we've eliminated, we could stay at 9 by adding the positive if we want to consider, the successes question one last time. Whoops.
I just feel like that is such a broad question, and I mean, it would give us maybe some strengths. Like, you want to be strengths based as well in a survey, right? And like, what are some of the strengths that
But
your organization is drawing from or experiencing?
as soon as I said that, though, I remembered, Denise, didn't you say that they actually do report out about what's going well on a quarterly basis?
Yes,
So
they do.
we don't need to ask them that again.
And I feel like this is a little bit more of a positive iteration than we started with. Dale, did you have something that you want to say? Do you want me to?
No, I was just
that
going to
over
say
here?
that it seems to me that a main focus is twofold. One, what is working and what is needed.
And we've asked what is needed in a number, at least in one way. What is working? That, I think that gets asked in, what do you see the question that we just completed
Yeah.
with Alyssa's.
We want them to be able to celebrate also.
Don't forget that just the fact that you're asking them for their feedback is sometimes a celebration in itself. Oftentimes, we're not asking our CBOs what they need, what they want, what's working, what's not working. And so this is a huge opportunity for them to give feedback.
Oh, that's excellent. Yes.
And for the departments too, right? Like how often do they get to share out externally, you know, these are some of the internal, you know, yeah, kind of a transparent space to share with support. All right, so Dale, and everybody else, does this work as is to send out as soon as ORJ can email it? And then I heard Denise say that there was another question maybe about that list. Hopefully I was wrong.
Wrong about, well, first, I think, Nicole, we should go back to the top of this and walk through it again to ensure that it's exactly what everybody has in mind, because this is, if we could, what I'm seeing right now is, could we go back to the,
We can, but this is all the changes that is incorporated in here. I think that this will help folks make the decision about the questions, seeing them as the user.
okay, could you enlarge it, please, for us? Thank you. So I think we should just walk through the 9 questions. So we have, what is your agency? Next question, please. The agency type, are you a CBO or are you a county partner? What region are you coming from? And then what do you see as the most critical area of need for the individuals returning to their communities? So then what is the greatest challenge your program faces? So we have challenges for the individuals, challenges at the program level, and then potential areas. What potential areas do you see your programs growing into? Describe any barriers that your agency experiences when seeking to reach program goals and objectives, and what supports could help your agency reach those goals and objectives. I really like how that came together. That's a really lovely question. That's really nice.
Yeah, I like the last
And
part.
then what programs and services would you suggest we consider for future development or funding in your area? And that's
There was a 9.
the end.
Someone said there was 9. I've only seen 8.
No, you eliminated one.
We eliminated one.
Right.
And then we have our wrap up, which is thank you for your participation.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't put that below. We're not able to do that in the software. So
Right. Okay. Lila, I see your hand up.
The only thing that I'm catching for the first time this time around is our first question. I'd like to change the language from custody to something else that is a little bit more aware and empowering. So if it's, I think it's question number 4. So what is the most critical area of need for individuals returning to their communities from, I don't know,
I think you could just say returning to their communities. You don't have to say from custody.
Thank you. That works for me.
Because you are working with reentry population. They already know that part.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah, that's right.
So is everyone okay with this?
I'm
It's
okay.
just Dale and I. Sorry, and Terry.
Well,
I remember that when we went through this the first time, you could get back to, go up, please. Oh, no, right there at the top. Other, I had raised the question, well, there's only 3 major areas in the county. Why would we have other? But someone pointed out that they may actually overlap. And so if that's the case, should we add some verbiage in there so that it makes it clearer why we have a box for other?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
Anybody who's in other knows, like if somebody
Exactly.
were doing this for South County, they would put South County because Central County is such an enormous space that doesn't really represent South County necessarily. So, or they might put Far East County because that East County is sort of broad.
Right. Lila, your hand, oh, there you go.
Yeah, my
Okay.
hand is down. Yeah, so we are ready. We have the survey ready to go. Is there anything else that ORJ needs from this subcommittee for
Oh,
this?
yes. I need to know who you want it to go to.
Okay, so that all government departments and CBOs that are funded by AB 109 dollars.
I understand that. What I'm not clear on is, do you want us to send it to individuals who are working with participants directly, or do you want us to send it to executive directors of programs? Who do you want us to send it to? When we sent it last time, we sent it out broadly and we did not get responses broadly. So what I am suggesting would be that we send it to our, the individuals that report to our office on a semi-annual quarterly basis. So those would be primarily executive directors of programs. And that's what I would suggest, is that we do it that way at that level. So it's going to go out to fewer people, but to the individuals that theoretically are the decision makers.
So they're
Because we did not get responses, very much in the way of responses from staff.
So this is the person who needs to make sure that it's getting done, but they're probably not the ones who are going to complete it. And for the government agencies, this would be like the department head. Would it complicate things or dilute the responsibility if we CC someone from like a support person on that person's team, whether it's someone from their development department or, you know,
Lila, we have really good relationships with everybody.
Okay.
And people generally respond to us. So I don't, you know, we get data from folks several times a year. So we know who to reach to that way. And if there was any reason to follow up with a secretary or something along those lines, we can do that, but we don't usually need to, if that's what you're getting at.
I mean, I'm just getting a better response than we got last time, which sounds like your, you know, suggestion is working to hopefully solve to that, but we don't know for sure. But
right.
We can try that. We can for sure try that. And especially with the offer of following up with additional additional context as needed.
And it's also planned to be announced at the CCP meeting next Friday to kind of
remind everybody,
remind everyone that it's either already sent or it's coming.
Perfect.
Jill, I see your hand up.
Did you include any kind of a email description that this is used to build future budgets and budget asks of the CCP in the survey versus just collection of information? Because I think this is valuable to be used. And I think if people understand it's connected to future budget asks or programming asks, they might be a little bit more motivated as well.
Fair enough. What we put out is what this is here. So if the committee wants to change the preamble, we can certainly negotiate all of that and change it.
But I mean, don't you send this out by email? So is it just a blank email, or is there any kind of an introduction like, hi?
There is an introduction.
That's
right.
what I'm talking about in the email, not in the survey, because they'd have to click on the link to get to the survey to understand it. So in that email, it could be that, you know, either you or whoever you feel is the most appropriate person within your division to complete this, and then is there a deadline? That's the other thing. Included in that email, it could be a fake deadline, but at least it gives people a target date.
Well, I would suggest that we give them 2 weeks from the time that we send it out with a 1 week of extension. And then we analyze the results from there. And that could take us, given the work flow that we have, that could take us a good number of weeks to wrap up. But that's kind of the schedule that I would suggest. I don't think that to put it out there for longer than that serves us. People are either going to respond or they're not, and we can send out a reminder. And I'm happy to, you know, speak to the budget aspect and planning aspect of this in an email.
Denise, is there a rough percentage you could give us of the return success last time?
Well, last time was really difficult because we sent it out so broadly. And what I will say is that we did not get participation, very, very little participation from our county partners. And that became a topic of discussion. And how do we make these surveys more, excuse me, how do we make these surveys more accessible for everybody? So my hope is that I would also say at that same time, Dale, we were, the ORJ was having trouble getting the data that we request on a quarterly basis from our county partners as well. Things have changed dramatically since then, I'm happy to say. So my hope is that we would get a response from each agency, and that we can track.
Yeah, great, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, but we won't track who's doing it, so.
Denise, I heard you say that understandably the workflow in the department could result in many weeks to process the responses.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate or useful for the committee to receive it in the raw form before you guys compile it, or should we just wait?
Well, typically, I'm
new to this.
In my tenure,
yes,
we have provided both to the committee. Some committee members like all the data and others don't. Okay. I'm not inclined to release the data until our office has had a chance to look at it, to review it, to vet it, to analyze it. And so I do appreciate the eagerness that the committee has for getting the results, but we have a process that we need to go through, and we're also in major contract negotiation process right now for a new fiscal year with new contracting practices. So we've got a lot on our plate, and furthermore, this type of analysis takes 2 people. Yeah. So, but we can do it. It's not that awful much in the way of provider responses.
I don't think we need to add that burden to you. And the other thing is, we don't want to risk the possibility of inappropriate assumptions being made.
Yeah, we don't want to be going down the wrong road before you've vetted it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So
thank you. Yeah, we believe in data. Yeah. So.
That's great.
Just pitch in there, you know, thank you, ORJ, for sending this survey out. You know, I was hopeful that it would get sent out last time, but I think this is a tighter survey. And so hopefully that'll show up in the experience of folks who are filling it out and in the information that we get. So just kind of thinking about timing, it sounds like we would probably be seeing the report not for the May meeting, but for the June meeting. Is that what it's looking like?
I doubt it. It could be the July meeting.
Could be the July meeting.
That's what I'm expecting.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, because I know that, part of the hurry and the rush is that we want to be able to have input in any recommendations that we make for the policy and budget recommendations. Can someone help me find out if it's going to be too late for that, or where that lines up with the policy and budget recommendations?
Phil, I think that's a question for you. Do you have any idea? I see you
Yeah,
smiling there. And I know you know.
Based on the last CAB conversation, I think this ties in quite well, because I think the recommendations for the next budget submittal would go to CAB either in September, maybe, I think ideally September. Isn't that what they decided, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean,
Because-
October, the end of October is the final, the deadline, right?
Right, the beginning of
In front
October.
CCP, so.
Yeah, the beginning of October is when Paul sends out the budget documents. So I think in September, it would go to the full CAB. So having it in July, developing your recommendations and submitting them to CAB is great timing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we try to avoid special meetings, but if that is always on the table, if special meetings need to happen to have further conversations, but we try to
Well,
get ahead of that.
Crawford could just use his whip to have us go through, right, Crawford? I guess
Crawford's muted right now.
maybe.
Well, everyone, I'm so sorry. I have to depart for another meeting, so I'm going to do that. But if there are any other fine tooth questions, Christina is here to answer them and support them. We've already talked through things. So if there isn't anything else, thank you all for your input. This looks really great, and I'm really excited to send it out and to see what comes forward.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for your.
Thank you all.
expertise.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Can I, oh, she's
You
gone. Okay.
want to look more about the survey, or we?
I think
I-
my last
think-
question, oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Dale.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My last question was just gonna be, when survey is gonna be sent out, kind of to be coaching and encouraging. It sounds like maybe next week we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, would it be helpful to have this go out before the CCP meeting next Friday or after, or does it make a difference? Because we can, work towards whatever goal that you have there.
I mean, I would say as soon as possible. So if we can send it out prior to CCP, that would be great. And if it's appropriate to let, I don't know, I'm trying to think who our chair is of this subcommittee. Let the chair know that it's gone out.
Yeah, I just need to work internally on the contact list because I don't have that on my end. I mean, I'm sure I do in some form or fashion, but I don't know who the identified executives that Denise has on her end. I'm not sure if I have their contact information. So I will be coordinating that with her and obviously drafting up that introduction email appropriately. So it shouldn't take too long. I don't think that it should be a problem to be able to get that out before the CCP meeting next Friday.
I would strongly suggest you do that, and then add to the CAB chair's report at CCP a reminder that the survey was sent out and to look for it, and if anybody didn't get it, to get their information, connect with them.
Yeah, I know Crawford had plans to make that announcement. I think ORJ was making an announcement about that too. So I think we're covered with announcements. So it'll be good
Okay,
timing.
it's 12:16. We should adjourn at 12:30. So I'm wondering if we can move on the agenda at this point. Okay, Item number 5 on the agenda is standing agenda item for Measure X updates. I don't have any knowledge about what that is, so if anyone can weigh in on that.
So that was a placeholder for you guys to get updates about Measure X, specifically around the funding allocations that this group was interested in around housing and, well, permanent supportive housing and the restorative justice work. And so as this is still being rolled out through the county, there is a lot of unknowns right now as far as how that's going to roll out. And so this was an agenda item for anyone to share
Yeah.
updates, whether it's
I
you,
think,
Dale, joining the Measure X meeting, or
yeah,
or Jay has updates. I don't personally have any updates for you.
okay. And
Or anyone from the
I
community.
will be attending the Measure X meetings, and their originally proposed next meeting has been canceled. So I'm not sure when they're going to meet again.
Well, and quite frankly, the Measure X CAB has nothing really to do currently with funding at this point. They're simply going to be doing their reporting, expanded assessment, and determining their evaluation of future funds. So all MX CAB funding decisions are at the Board of Supervisors level, and those have been made.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item number 6, review reentry program services in San Francisco and Alameda County. I have read the volumes of material for both San Francisco and Alameda. I don't know why these are on, well, what we're supposed to do with these on the agenda at this point.
So on your guys' work plan, you had shared interests in looking at other local cabs in different counties, surrounding counties. And so this was more just informational for you to look at the programs and services in Alameda and San Francisco to see if it sparks any interest in, possibly a gap that we have in our county that you would want to kind of research. And so that information is there for you. And the PDF specifically is their program directory for each of those 2 counties. And then there's just a link there to their website where you can find more information. If nothing else, it's there as a reference, but I would look to the subcommittee to provide direction to staff on what you want to do with that.
Yeah. Well, the Alameda County one is overwhelming with the number of pages and material. I'm not suggesting that it isn't important or valuable information, but I don't know how many people would want to go through something that with that volume. Lila? I mean, yeah, Lila.
Yeah, I just want to suggest that we put an item on the next agenda for any connections or response. Yeah, any additional response from that material. Is that helpful or necessary? I know it's just you and I right now, Dale. Just to give folks time to see if they have anything now that we're clear why the information was presented.
Nicole, do you think there should be anything from Contra Costa County, a probation department?
I mean, again, this was just a reference to your guys' work plan that you wanted to see what other counties were doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
hopefully we already know what the services that AB 109 funded services that are
Right.
out there now.
Right.
We do have a link to our website that provides some of that information if folks
Yes.
are not aware of that.
You
That
know,
would
what
be-
I'm
That would be
wondering,
a different ask than what was asked and why this is on the agenda. So.
Yeah. you know, what I'm wondering is, information can sort of get lost, about our committee or about CAB or whatever. I'm wondering if periodically we shouldn't consider incorporating just certain snippets of information about both, just as an update or a reminder. Any thoughts on that, anybody?
I think I missed something there, Dale. That includes snippets about what?
Well, just about our committee or about CAB, information, um, um, rules or procedures or whatever it might be.
I
But it
think the,
could,
the, the part I missed, I'm sorry, is you're thinking of that being included where?
in our agenda at some point, just as a, but it would have to relate to our committee.
Okay, what I'm hearing you say is that we would include in our agendas things about how our committee works
Yeah.
to remind
well,
us.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll review the information that we have
Okay,
on our committee. And if there are some items that I think might be helpful to remind people about, that maybe I can then ask Nicole if she would include just an item of information concerning it.
Are you talking
And-
about the operating guidelines that speaks to the charge of the
Yes.
subcommittee?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can bring that back if that's helpful for folks
And,
to review.
and Dale, are the people you're looking to inform with this the members of the committee, the members of the public who are attending the meeting? Who's?
It would, yeah, it could include, it would include members of the committee, because there may be some things that we have forgotten or we don't remember, but also people like yourself, Terry, who are in the wings and maybe making decisions about which committee you would like to
Sure.
to join.
Well, I'm happy to report that Nicole covers that very well. As we enter through the wings, she sent all that information for me to read outside of the meeting.
Yeah, and I don't know, it could be that it could develop just some internal discussions at a meeting that could be informative. Anyhow, let's go to next steps. Where are we at this point?
So next steps, that particular line item or agenda item is for you guys to provide input in what's going to be on the agenda next month. We do have an agenda planning meeting with the chairs, and of course for this particular month, because Dr. Cole, our chair, was not here, I would probably be looking for you, Dale, to again attend our agenda planning meeting to discuss
Okay,
the meeting for May, but I want this to be a time for other members to weigh in on what do we discuss next? How do we
Sure.
move the work along?
Monique's hand was raised. Did you have something you wanted to share, Monique?
I did. Thank you, Lila. So I was also thinking on number 6 and into number 7, this could be a good place for presentations as well. So as you review the other county websites, you may see a program or a presentation that they have that you might want to bring to this particular body. So, and that could be a next step, an ongoing conversation, as well as in the agenda planning meeting. So these two items can incorporate any future presentations you might want to see as it relates to programs and services.
That's a good point, because once we get the survey back, it may very well be that we would like to invite an organization to come and make a brief presentation. Has that been done in the past, Nicole?
I mean, most of the surveys for those that are currently funded with AB $109, so it wouldn't be necessarily a new program outside of that. I think this is more something you'd be doing in parallel while you wait for your survey results, because you remember your results are probably not going to come back until July. And again, those are current CBOs that are being providing community programs with AB $109. So if there's something within these two different counties that you're interested in and you want them to present, we would need to know that
Yeah,
soon so we can invite them to the May meeting.
I'm not thinking of external counties. I'm thinking we may look at the response of one of the survey items, and there may be something written by a CBO
Right.
that sounds interesting to us, and we might then like to invite them and maybe have them expand on that and provide some information. Or
Right.
there may
You do
be
have May,
something,
May and June to
Yeah.
fill an agenda, is my point. And until you get those results in July, what is this group going to look to agendize to move the work of this
Yeah.
subcommittee?
I don't have a particular thought about that. I'm thinking more of after we get the survey results. And also it could be an opportunity for us to really highlight and praise a CBO also.
Sounds good, Dale. Agreed. Yeah, as far as agenda items on the next meeting, I think it would be helpful for us to touch base on the main 3 areas of our work plan in order to identify additional action steps, or to hear an update from each of the folks who are responsible for that area. So that's one thing I would put on the agenda for next time. And then earlier I suggested, if there are any additional responses that we want to take, but I don't think that needs to be agendized unless we identify a follow-up step from all of this material. So can we reach out to ask that it be added if we come across a connection point to either SF Adult Probation website or Alameda Adult Probation website resources?
Reach out to ORJ to seek a presenter on some of this materials? Is that what you're?
To add it to the agenda, or to identify a presenter. Can we email
You can
agenda?
email ORJ.
Okay. Sounds good.
I would just suggest, just how timing of, with when you wanting to add a presenter to your agenda, you want to give them time to respond to the requests, and then also provide us any materials in time for the meeting to post it and notice it. So, you guys' next meeting is May 19th. So we would want to know, a week out prior to that. Well, even maybe 2 or 3 weeks out from that, to be able to invite somebody back and give them time. So just something to think about.
Sounds good. Thank you.
If it's a reference material that already exists, that's easy to add. But if you're asking someone to come back and present, then we need to, just as a courtesy to them, give them time to respond to that.
2 suggestions for
Yeah, go ahead,
future
Jill.
presenters as you're looking for things that are applicable to you all is CalAIM, the changes with CalAIM and the Medi-Cal population and our reentry population. There'll be more coverage. So Sharon Mackey from the health plan has a presentation that she can do on that to explain what services will be available to this population that aren't currently available. And the other one is H3, our Health, Housing, and Homeless, to discuss what that housing trust fund will look like that's funded from the Measure X funds, and how to incorporate the needs of the reentry population into housing planning for the future.
And who would be a good contact for the Housing Trust Fund, Jill?
So the director, Christy of H3,
Okay.
she could connect you to whoever she feels would be best presenter.
I know that there was some interest from the policy and budget on the CalAIM presentation, so maybe it's something that the full body might be interested in, so that everyone can benefit from the CalAIM presentation, but we'll follow up after.
Yes, I agree. I took a peek at CalAIM yesterday and was fascinated with the support that's provided through it. So yeah, that could be really helpful.
All right.
Jill, is there anything about the Board of Supervisors and their considerations or processes or whatever it might be that might be informational and helpful to us?
No, there's nothing going on.
Okay.
No, but there might be some upcoming exciting news about a potential Prop 47 grant. So the due date for the submittal of that is May 2nd, I believe. And so there might be something later in the summer to announce that you all might want to find out what if they got approved for that grant.
Okay, great. And Jill, what's the latest on meetings in person as opposed to online and so forth?
So as it stands right now, we're still hybrid. The Board of Supervisors are in person with, there's some question about whether or not, so in normal times, the Brown Act, if you have to have a quorum of the group in the room or the meeting doesn't count, and so there's some question with this emergency order, whether or not that's required. Sorry. Whether or not that's required. So as long as you all stay virtual, you can continue to stay virtual. If you end up with a quorum in the room, it could potentially make it more challenging for agendizing the meeting. So there's some questions on that. But as it stands right now, you're still good going forward virtually, since our numbers are starting to slightly uptick. Our hospitalizations are starting to uptick in our county. They're just being super cautious.
Right. I saw that. Okay. Okay, anything else, folks?
The next meeting, then on the 19th, Terry should be a voting member on the subcommittee.
Wonderful.
And that would make, you, Dale, you and Terry, and then Lila, I know that you're looking to step off to go to policy and budget. The hope is to be able to allow you to do that. We might have to shuffle some folks back onto this board to make that happen.
I mean, I could potentially reconsider too. At this point, maybe it makes sense for me to be connected in both places. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we want you.
Please reconsider.
Is there anything we can do to sweeten the pot, Lila?
End this meeting right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I gotta
We'll
move
follow
on
up
to
with
the
you
next.
because we'll probably need you to join the agenda planning meeting and also do the report out to the full body for this month's meeting.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
The report out for the full body in May on the subcommittee report out.
Right.
We'll be looking to you to help do that for us on behalf of Dr. Cole, and then I'll
Yeah,
follow up
and-
with you afterwards about the agenda planning meeting for next Monday.
Okay, and Lila was gonna send information to me on notes, so then I'll fill the form out. Yeah, great. Thank you so very, very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Yeah. I'll get you those notes within a couple days, Dale. Thank
That's
you.
fine. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.